I hope you pay attention to the most beneficial part and ignore anything that may be harmful. And with that, let's dive deep into today's topic. And our topic is going to be, of course, the Quran, which is essentially the most important book ever. And this will be a very valuable information you'll be hearing. And from the Quran, we know it's the message from God to us. And that message has been given throughout the prophets through many nations and ended with us right now in today's age. And I want to dive deep into the main message or the core message that has been passed down. And it can be summarized into 3 topics. And the Quran goes in every single surah, in every single chapter, in every single verse. All of them discuss one of these 3 topics, if not a mixture of both or all 3 at the same time, which is God, who He is, and the world, what is it leading up to, and our purpose in this world. And if you look into Surah Al-Fatiha, you would notice these 3 topics are covered. If you see what in Surah Taha, what God told Moses, and that essentially summarizes the whole message, is that He told him who He is. And He told him what the world is leading up to, and He told him what's our purpose in this. And I think if you want to read the Quran and actually understand and benefit from it, keep that in mind. Do it right now, especially when it's the month of Ramadan. When you read the Quran, keep in mind of these 3 topics. The Quran is to teach you about these 3. Every single verse, every single surah is talking about and is giving you more details about one of these 3 topics. God, who He is, and what the world is leading up to. I'm assuming you already know. And our purpose in it. And when you keep that in mind and have the intention of understanding more about these 3 topics, every single surah you will read, you would understand deeply like never before. It's like, wow, now I further understand. And it fits in because before, I'm pretty sure when you read the Quran, you might not, like, what am I looking for? I know I'm getting ajr or hasanat from reading it and it's a good deed, but what am I trying to learn? And when you know what you're looking for, it makes it so much better and easier to understand. And in today's episode or lecture, we will dive into the 3rd topic. And it's what's our purpose in here, and specifically the tests we're in. And essentially what I'm here to do is that I'm giving you my organic interpretation of reading the Quran throughout many years and learning of these 3 topics. You can do exactly the same. Go to the Quran right now and have an intention of understanding these 3, and you will be mesmerized, and it's so fascinating. And in today's lecture, basically, is going to be a shortcut. I will share what I've learned from having this intention and learning from it. And it's going to be the 3rd topic, as we know, God and who He is, what the world is leading up to. This is like the Day of Judgment, should already be known. And the 3rd one is what's our purpose in it? Or like, what is our relationship in this premise, which is God, the world, and then us. And more specifically, we will be discussing the fitna, or the test that we're in. Essentially, God tests people, tests creatures. One of the first tests that has been done was not with Adam. And this is the first episode I want to be talking with, is the test of the angels. Like, what? Angels were tested? Yes. It was actually the first test before Adam gets tested with a tree. And that would be the second topic we'll be discussing. It would be Adam. and the tree, when essentially God told them you can eat from all these trees except one that you're not to get near. And you might think like, okay, that's interesting. I've already heard that. But what you haven't heard is that we are living the same experience that Adam lived every single day. How could that be? We'll discuss that too. And we'll dive deep into some current test or fitna that we have. The fitna is very well known in the Islamic culture. And is a fitna to test your iman, is to test who you are, is to test your relationship with God. And it will be revealed to us what's the wisdom behind the fitna or behind the test that we get. And that would be revealed through the episode that we would have. Is going to be broken apart for each topic. And some of the fitnas that would be indulging. We're not indulging in fitna, but we will be discussing to learn from and to have immunity for such fitna. That's the purpose of this series, is that we will realize when a fitna is presented to us, and we will realize what's the main purpose of it, and we will make sure not to fall victim for it. Some of the fitnas we'll be discussing in one episode. We will go over the shape of the earth. Is it round? Is it flat? Like, oh my God, this, the most affected people by it was the Christian when it was first brought up. It's like, oh, the earth is not in a dome and is like round. And then a lot of people started losing faith, and it's still present today. And we will go into that, and like we will see, like, is it round? Is it flat? How does that affect our relationship with God? Or like, how does that affect our belief? And is a fitna within itself. And the right answer you will not be expecting. It is absolutely profound. And once you know the answer, you would automatically be applying it to every single fitna. A fitna comes, you already know what's the answer. It is that simple once you know what the answer. And where is that answer from? Is from the Quran. And it would be the last episode to finalize all the answers. Because from every single one, we will leave the curiosity and without answering it, almost like a cliffhanger. And then we will discuss in the comments, hopefully, and then give the final answer to all of these in the final episode. And we will also be discussing one of my favorite topics, actually, and it's been such a big debate, which is the evolution theory. It's like, is Adam made from dirt? Is Adam came from monkeys? And it's like, whoa. Also, this is one of the biggest fitna that is present today. And once it first was presented, it shaked the belief, especially of the Western world, that we're in right now. And I'm assuming if you're listening to this video, you're in it, or at least you speak the language. And we will know the answer for that as well. It is adhan. So I will let it pass. And then we will discuss the Ba'tha, or the final messenger, which was the Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he came to the Arabian Peninsula, or to the Arabic people, and is like, okay, how is that a fitna? That's a prophet that came, and that was to the people, or bu'ith al-Nabi al-Ummi. I was like, how was that a fitna? But from that, you would see it is exactly what happened with the angels, in which they were expecting something and something else happened. And in this case, it was a fitna to the Jewish people, in which case they were expecting a prophet, but they thought it was from them. And then it came from what they were not expecting happened. And in that situation, reveals to us kind of like what the fitna's purpose is, which is to reveal someone's true colors, or like what their intent is. And then we will, there's many topics in the Quran that shows you the fitna in its process and what it does. We will also be discussing of, for example, the golden calf that also the Jewish people were faced after running from Egypt and escaping, and after the Pharaoh was swallowed by the river. And we'll also go into Talut and Jalut. And at this point, you will be thinking, okay, like, what's the point of, like, these fitna? What's the point of this test? Wasn't it be better if you just, like, tell me the answer and just let me pass without even struggling in it? And we would see, for the first time, a human, which is a Talut, who does this test to the army who he's summoning to go fight Jalut. Or am I missing Talut and Jalut? I'm not sure, but it is so fascinating. There is this king who was appointed to be king over Israel, and he's summoning an army to go fight, and he does the same fitna to the army that God is doing to his creation. And it would be, at that point, it would be revealed to us, so that's the point of the fitna. And it would be clear when we see a human who's wise enough to do it. And then we will go to the finale. And if you want to know the answer, it's literally in the surah that talks about the fitna that happened to the Muslim people right at its infancy, when the Prophet was around, and the Qibla was changed from Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, which is in Jerusalem, to Al-Masjid Al-Haram, or to the Kaaba, which is in Mecca. And that was such a big fitna and drastic to the Muslim faith. It's like, whoa, like, we're literally changing our Qibla, or our literally that, almost like the heart of the religion is being changed in the middle of its stages, or like early stages. And in the Quran, if you want to know the whole purpose of it, or the whole answer to all of these questions, and how you should be relate, how you should be acting, or what's the answer for each of the fitna, the answer is there. And it's so profound, and it's so simple, and it's like, oh, that makes sense. Like, now once we discuss that final episode, you would understand, oh, is the earth flat or round? Simple. I know the answer for that. And then for any fitna, or like, oh, is the evolution theory, like, what is it? Is it like, oh, from monkeys or from dirt? Like, what are you talking? It's like, oh, after you realize what's the answer, it would be like, simply, you're not even gonna give it a second thought because it's so obvious. And there's going to be many tests that would come, like different shapes. For example, something that I come up is like, oh, was Satan or the shaitan, was he an angel or not? That might be a fitna, but once you see or get the final episode, which is the fitna that the Muslims had with changing of the Qibla, and you see the answer, it's like, oh, it's very simple. And for every single fitna, you will know what's the purpose of it. And if you know what's the purpose of it and the right answer, you will be immune to these fitna. And it's like, whoa, that sounds too good to be true. Well, guess what? That's what the Quran is here for. It's literally the message from God, and is giving you the answer to the fitnas, and how to, or to the test that we're in, and how to interact with them. And all you need to do is just read the Quran. And essentially what this series is going to be about is me sharing my organic understanding of, like, reading the Quran and thinking about what it means, and having if you hear the first part of the episode, I always say, I hope you pay attention to the most beneficial part and ignore anything that may be harmful. You would notice why that is. God, this line, paying attention to the most beneficial part, is a character distinction of ulul albab. And if you have that habit, that will get you far, very far with your relationship with God and your understanding of the Quran, which is that you always pay attention to the most beneficial part in everything you encounter, whether reading a book, whether watching a TV, in your conversation. But essentially, it is that. When you read the Quran, have the intention of paying attention to the most beneficial part. And when you do that, you would see that, the message of the Quran is mainly 3 parts. And it is so obvious, which is God, who He is, the world, what is it leading up to, and our purpose, or where we fit in that 3 part. And in this series, it's someone who already gone through the process and now is giving you some of the 3rd part, which is what is our relationship in this premise, God, the world, and then how we play in it. And the topic we'll be discussing, which is a very big one, which is the test, which is essentially almost like a third of the Quran, which is we are being tested. And if you want to know more, all you have to do, keep those 3 points in mind and just open the Quran and just read with that intention of knowing or like learning more about God, who He is. And there is so many verses that explain, God, He is the one, and then it gives you so many descriptions. And then the world and what is it leading up to, like that is very obvious, is the Day of Judgment. And although it's very obvious, I think it's the most sacred information the humanity will ever hear, which is that there is life after death, and yet is like in plain sight that no one is looking for it. It's like no one is even giving it a second thought. And then we'll understand what's our purpose. And it's if you read the Quran, you will get more of it. But for now, we'll be discussing us being tested, which is one of our relationship in this this premise is we are being tested, and our purpose in it is actually so profound and is sprinkled throughout the Quran. And all you have to do is follow the verses, and what it means, this is your purpose. And you say, okay, this, for example, at-taqwa, and look like, what does the taqwa leads to? And then you would understand, the taqwa leads to this, and what is this leads to? And then it leads to one thing, and it's so profound. And it's right there in the Quran. All you have is to read it and have the intention of gaining the most beneficial knowledge. And we'll be discussing that more and many more in the future. And with that, I hope you paid attention to the most beneficial part and ignored anything that may be harmful. And with that, I hope you go to heaven. I hope we all go to heaven.